people in their 40s tell me they're burned out, I usually go, I think you're bored. Like, because they'll say, I go, if you got 10 gears, they'll go, I'm at gear 8. And I'll go, you're at gear 3. Like, you got so much more to give. You're overstimulated and under-challenged.
Jon, it's so good to see you and so good to see you in this context. Thanks for joining us here on the show.
I can't wait. It's fun to see you again.
Okay, so will you take us back as far as you are willing to go in the Jon Acuff story? I'm interested, just snapshot, just a minute in, who were you as a kid? Sure. What were the things about you that you can see in hindsight that you're kind of like, okay, maybe I started seeing the threads of this path that I'm on early on, if there were any, or if not, and you were a hermit recluse child, we want to know that too. Tell us what it was.
I'm hermit recluse. I just do all this for money. I hate podcasts. I hate social media. I just love me.
But I love that green.
Yeah. No, in third grade, a teacher, Mrs. Harris at Doyon Elementary School in Ipswich, Massachusetts.
And excuse me, Ipswich, Massachusetts.
Ipswich.
Okay.
And our mascot was the clam.
This all sounds like a lie so far. I am not.
We had a castle. There was a castle on the beach. Crane's Castle. They would hold the senior prom there.
Wow.
It was idyllic. And then we moved to Central Mass, less idyllic. But she laminated some poems I wrote, and I felt like a writer. So that's the first, I bump into it. And then there was sophomore year of high school, I win our high school poetry contest. I also take tap dancing. So pretty popular kid is what I'm trying to establish.
Okay, were you was this your parents had a legacy that they needed to continue on, or were you just raise your hand? Little Jon was like, I want to tap dance, Mom and Dad. How did that go down?
I had the rhythm in me. I mean, clearly my body was built for dance. But no, I went to an all-boys Catholic school because freshman year of public school, I earned my way into an all-boys Catholic high school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the only way to meet girls was we did a spring festival, spring musical every year. And I was like, I'll tap. I'll do ballroom. What do you want? Salsa? Let's go. So I did.
You are definitely my first friend that I have ever had that explained starting tap dance as a way to meet women. I have not heard that. But
let me tell you, here's a funny story, because I'll never be able to tell this story again because it's so niche. I tell people you can chase any dream you want. And this is the current example I use. My dental hygienist, cleaning my teeth. She said she's getting married. I go, where are you going on your honeymoon? She goes, we're going on a cruise from Fiji to New Zealand. I'm like, that's amazing. She goes, yeah, my fiance is a drummer. He got picked up by a jazz tap dancer who got booked on this cruise ship, and they do 3 shows and we get to go for free and I was like, only in Nashville is there a man in this city whose dream was jazz tap dancing, not just tap dancing, jazz. And then he got so successful, he has the funds to hire a drummer to accompany him on a cruise ship. So whenever somebody tells me their dream is too niche, I go, no, I think you can do it. Is it more niche than jazz tap dancer? Because if it's not more niche than that, I think you can do it. So.
Oh, that's so good. All right. Well, I have to know, is that what Jenny saw in you? Was it the tap dancing that ultimately led to a successful, long, beautiful marriage? Please say it is.
Her heart. Yeah. No.
We're going to have Jenny on for I need to hear the story from Jenny's perspective.
It won't involve tap dance. It won't
All
involve.
Right.
But yeah, so I wrote some journalism in college, fell in love with advertising because you could really find a sentence to move somebody to action. I really thought that was interesting. I was always fascinated by headlines and advertising. So I did that for big companies like Staples, Bose, Home Depot, Auto Trader, and learned how to write in those environments, which was, I didn't know it at the time, but was a huge benefit to me. And then
when you were in it, did you love it? Were you like,
when I was in it, I was a punk. I was like, okay. I jumped jobs. I had 6 real jobs in the first 8 years. Where
6 and 8 years.
Oh, I was a job jumper.
So 22 to 28. You're every year, basically.
Which is wives love. Wives, what I've learned is wives hate stability and security.
Hate it. They love tap dancing and job jumpers.
Yeah. And so, yeah, no, I was at the time, I would say the first 9, I did it for 12 years. So 1998 to 2010, I did corporate copywriting. And for the first 9 years, I was kind of like, this is frustrating. But then I realized like the path to doing what I wanted to do involved honoring my day job too. Like I learned you can't half do your day job and think you'll hustle on the weekends. You're one person. So if you practice quiet quitting, being lazy, stealing work time, being disrespectful, whatever, you don't turn into a different person on Saturday and then write your book with excellence. So I realized like, the more I pour in my day job, the better I become as a writer, as a person. Great. These things are related. And I really went all in on my day job, which helped me with my dream job and back and forth. And so discovering that relationship was huge for me.
When you were in your day job, did you have a vision for what the dream was? And how did that emerge? How did you figure out, okay, this isn't it. I'm learning, but this isn't it for me. When did the vision for what it was emerge?
In 2001, I started my first blog, and it was impossible because you had to build it with Dreamweaver and like reshape photos and like program it. And so I started a music review blog where that was when I first realized if you tell the internet you're a thing and you're consistently the thing, they just trust that you're the thing. So record labels would send me albums and be like, hey, you're a rock critic. And I interviewed Jon Acuff, who was this band Five for Fighting. His big song was Superman. And he said, I remember I asked him a question. And he said, well, you're a rock critic. You get it. And I was like, oh, I'm not a rock, what? Like, and so that was 2001. But then it was pretty hard to do. And I got discouraged. And so then I just stopped doing that for like 7 years. And in 2008, started another blog and then another blog. And then at that point, I was like, I'm going to keep trying. And then Stuff Christians Like, this blog I had, gained a lot of attention pretty quickly. And it was like, from there, I was like, oh, there's a whole world that I have access to. And if I work hard, I can meet new people, I can try new things. And that was when I really fell in love with the idea of like, you can build something on the side of the thing you currently have. And so like the thing I tell people is no one ever changes just because. Like no one willingly leaves their comfort zone. No one ever wakes up and goes, today I'll have grit. Today I'll have persistence. What happens is there's something outside your comfort zone that's worth being uncomfortable for. So for me, when I got a taste of the blog and I was like, oh, wow, that's when I started getting up earlier. That's when I started watching less TV because those things, TV was giving me nothing. The blog was giving me so much that like TV was not worth it. And then I had 2 little kids. I tell people all the time, like, having kids made me more creative and more productive because I was home and I had to be deliberate with my time. And so I think culturally we have this myth of like, oh, my kids are going to ruin my career. And I'm like, I don't know. I think they're going to dial you in and I think they're going to shape your career in ways you can't even imagine. So that kind of all happened at once.
So how many blogs did you try before the one that took off?
I would probably say 3, but another question would be how many URLs did you register before one finally? Like my wife and I had an agreement. If I didn't do something with the URL for a year, I had to release it back into the wild. So like wordninja.tv is available if anybody wants that. Like, so if I had the faintest idea, Liz, I was like, oh, I better get that. Some kid in Romania is about to steal that URL. And I'd go to GoDaddy and I'd be like, 10-year sign up? Yeah, give me 10 years. And I do need .me. Thank you for asking, GoDaddy. And so like,
I feel like people are worried that like after they die, people will like read their journals. What I'm worried about is that someone's going to get into my GoDaddy account and see the graveyard of ideas and dreams. I mean, I've got URLs that are coming up on the 10-year mark. I still can't let them go. Why?
Oh, you're like, this could be the year.
This could be the year. This could be the year that turdcakes.com comes into existence.
People are gonna,
you never
mullets
know.
are coming back.
You never know.
Like, mullets are coming back. It's cyclical.
So it was like three goes. Why did you quit? Like, walk us through, how did you know it's no longer, I don't know what your previous 2 blogs were. You can wordninja.net or whatever it was. But like, what was the process for you going, some sort of discernment was happening there, right? Like, I like the medium, I like the writing, I like the internet thing, but this topic isn't resonating or it's not gaining traction. Like, what were kind of your indicators to like hang on to the medium, keep trying, but evolve what the actual content was?
I had a counselor named Chip Dodd, who I love. He wrote this book, The Voice of the Heart. Brilliant guy, PhD. And just the other day, we were talking about purpose. And he said, I think an easy definition of purpose is what can't you not do? Like, what can't you not do? And so for me, when I plugged into like certain topics, I couldn't help but write a lot about them. And I was like, oh, I don't have to force this. Like, I'm keeping ideas. Like, I'm thinking about this at night. I'm ignoring video games for this. Like, oh, wow. And then like, over time, that mutated into like, I'm willing to put up with travel for this. Like, you and I do the same job and like we travel, and there's no part of me that likes a delayed flight. Or like, I took a red eye the other day. I haven't taken a red eye in 20 years. And I was like, oh, this is why I don't take these. But I had an event and I wanted to be at my daughter's parents' weekend for college. So I had to take a red eye. And I always tell people, like, find something you'll put up with a lot of inconvenience for. So I found this thing that I had a lot that would just come out of me. And then I was also like, I'm willing to put up with this convenience. I'm willing to do embarrassing things. Like I would make my own t-shirt. I would go to Catalyst, this big leadership event in Atlanta. I was not speaking there. Like they were just polite to me. And I would go with like a bag of buttons I'd made that had blog phrases on them. Like I might as well have been selling albums out of my trunk of my car, like
or tap dancing at Catalyst.
Or tap dancing. I could have used those buttons right on the shoes, but it didn't matter because I was like, I'm gonna try to do this thing. And so, like, that was another indicator for me. Is like, I'm willing to be embarrassed for this. Like, I'm willing.
Ooh, that's good.
You know.
I like that. Also, speaking of the cost of travel and just, you got to love something. I was talking just last week with our mutual friend, Sean Hanks, and talking about travel. And he goes, I know a lot of people who are like, I speak for free, but you have to pay me to fly to Orlando. And I was like, that hits. Because I would get on stage and speak. I'd pay you. I love it so much. I don't need a dime for it. Yeah. I need a decent amount of money to fly to Orlando.
Yeah, exactly.
So Stuff Christians Like was kind of the satirical, humorous blog. And it started to take off. But you still have a day job. You're still in advertising. You've still you still got a steady paycheck coming in. Talk to us through that season of like, okay, I've got the thing I'm willing to embarrass myself for. I've got the thing I'm willing to get on an airplane and, spend time away from my family for. When did the idea of starting to index more on that and potentially take a risk in your day job start to emerge for you? And how did you think through that?
Well, I started to do what I call the reverse Superman, meaning I would use a vacation day to go speak at an event, and then I would fly back to work and change back into work clothes. It was like I had been Superman, and now I was turning back into Clark Kent. Okay. So I started to do, and my wife was willing to go with me on that. Like, what you learn in marriage is it's easier to support actions than words. Like, she had heard a lot of my words. Oh, I'm going to do this someday. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to, so many words. She started to see my actions. Like, it was easy for her to be like, oh my gosh, he is getting up early. He's never been a morning person. He's getting up at 6 a.m. because then he can, oh, okay, cool. Oh, wow, I see him writing this blog. I see him saying, hey, can I go to Baltimore for one night? Like, we don't have a ton of money. I'll have to use a vacation day, but I want to go to this event, and here's why. So I started to do stuff like that. And then the pace I did it was the opposite of how the world was saying. The world is very much like, if you have one hit, it's your thing, quit everything, burn the boats. We love like that. But for me, I had 2 kids under the age of 4. Like, Jenny was staying home with the kids. Like, we had very little money. There wasn't, and so for me, that really gave me a pace of like, I would do radio interviews on my lunch break at work. So I'd run out to the car and they'd go, you wrote a book. And like, Liz, I got 30 grand for my first book, which I don't want to say for a second is a small number. I think that's amazing. I think any amount of money you get paid, especially your first book, like, wow, what a blessing. But after taxes and agent fees, it was like 15 grand. So people would come up to me and go, hey, now that you wrote a book, you got to quit this place. And I'd say, if I won a $30,000 or $15,000 lottery, would you be like, you moving to Mexico? Screw this place, right? You got to take that sweet 15
grand. Like Como, baby.
Yeah. And so I just was doing that. And then I realized in the middle of it, I was being given the gift of invisibility. I was getting to grow and make my worst mistakes when I was invisible. Meaning I didn't have a ton of attention, so I could take risks. I didn't have a ton of attention where I was afraid, like, what if I say this online and it goes viral and people hate me, whatever. Like, I had, even though I didn't want it, I wanted to be super visible. Like, I was frustrated a lot of times where I was like, why isn't this bigger? Why isn't this faster? But I had this gift of invisibility. And then I was just like, oh man, these are the training years what a gift that is. Like, how do I make use of that? Like, how do I try risky stuff? Like, how do I build in a way that's smart? And so I spent 3 years from like the blog getting some momentum to when I went to work with Dave Ramsey. There was a 3-year period where I was trying to be faithful to it. I was working as hard as I could at AutoTrader. I was doing freelance writing. I used to write radio jingles for like laser hair removal commercials, which clearly I know a ton about.
Prove it.
Yeah, no, like bikini season's coming up. Do you want me to make you nervous about that? Like, yeah, like
I already am.
Yeah. So for me, when people are like, I had so many freelance clients. I remember the funniest one to me was I did a 1940s vaudeville-based radio jingle for a tire company. And it's hard to rhyme radials with a word where it's like, it was a barbershop quartet and I wrote the words to it. So I just tried a million things, but I was paced on it because I had a family, I had responsibilities, and that ended up being a tremendous gift. I would have wanted to speak at GLS, Global Leadership Summit, like right away. Like if you said to me day 2, I would have been like, I'm ready. I wasn't. Like I didn't have the reps. I didn't have the ability. It wouldn't have gone well. It wouldn't have turned into a long-term relationship. And so I can look back now and go to that young man, oh man, I get it. It's frustrating. You wanted it faster. But boy, the pace of it was a gift too. And like, I'm glad it was at that pace.
Yeah, I love that. I also think there's the added benefit of, my story was a little bit more kind of like dramatic, burn the ships. Granted, I was in a very different season of life. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. So the risk factor of kind of like, I'm going all in and there is no plan B.
And
there
it
is
worked.
no backdoor. We all have, there's no rule for any of this, right? It's part of the reason that I love doing this show is because I think stories are so much more helpful than rules. But they just give us a path and in a sense of imagination for like, I remember Ben and Jon's story. His take was a little bit different. I was 22. I was 22, quit my first corporate job, bought a one-way plane ticket to Uganda. And that was the beginning of
And I've heard that story at
my
Orange.
path.
You and I shared the stage at Orange. And I got to hear
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. But one of the things that I love I interviewed Liz Gilbert once. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love and lots of other things. And she has she did fine. She did pretty good for herself, And her story and philosophy is really similar to yours. But there was kind of this added element, and she's obviously a writer. She felt pretty protective over her writing in the sense of she loved it and she wanted to keep loving it. Like she knew it was a passion. She was a bartender at the time. And her sense was, I'm going to work being a bartender. And that is how I'm going to like pay my bills so that my art can be my art. And this sense of I wanted to kind of protect it from needing to be everything for me, both my passion and the thing that I loved, but also the way that I was going to pay my bills. And I hear a little bit of that in your story. One, it sounds like your quote unquote invisibility gave you freedom to try, to fail, to embarrass yourself, to take risks that you wouldn't have if, you had immediately found yourself on larger stages or with more eyes on you. So there was like a freedom that you gave yourself. But I also do wonder if, as a dad of 2 little kids with, a partner who's staying at home with them, I wonder how much you actually really protected this thing that you loved by giving it a few years to kind of grow legs and become a little bit stronger before you were like, also, I need you to be the thing that can perform well enough that I can provide for my family and not make this a really stressful thing as well. That I don't know if maybe that like in the early days was like a great service that you did to your passion by not putting all that pressure on it.
Yeah, I used to say never attach all your bills to your dream right away. Like because it's not, you said it doesn't have the legs for it. It's not. So where I would see that is where I'd have a friend who's a photographer have like one good wedding season and they'd be like, I'm now a wedding photographer. And then 6 months in, they hated brides and they hated their camera and they didn't like what they were doing. And so for me, I did have that sense of like, okay, how can I do this at a pace? And also, I mean, let's be very clear. Like I was flying across the country to speak twice for $800. Like I found an invoice recently and it was like, I flew from Atlanta to San Diego and they gave me $800. And I was like, wait, 800 whole dollars? I will take that. You need me to speak twice? Definitely. You're not going to pay my expenses? I'm not going to do the math. Like, so like, I would love to claim like I fought off all these opportunities, but like, it was a mix of both of like, here's the next one, here's how to do it, here's what, And then I didn't go off on my own until 3 years of working with Dave Ramsey and then being like, hey, I think Jenny and I can figure this out and we can do it. But you're right. Like at that point, I'm like mid-30s. I tell people, if you're 22 and you ask me for advice, I give you different advice than if you're 42. So if 22-year-old Liz said to me like, hey, and also the thing you have to remember, Liz, is like one of the phrases we say in our family or soundtrack is, I wouldn't bet against us. Like I wouldn't bet against us. So if I guarantee if I met 22-year-old Liz and you're like, hey, I'm doing this corporate job, but I got this thing, I'm going to buy a one-way ticket. Like I would have been like, oh, I wouldn't bet against Liz. Like I wouldn't bet against Liz. There's other people I'm like, I would bet against that person all day. Like whenever somebody tells me, Jon, I want to be a full-time writer. I think I'm going to quit my day job. I ask the world's most annoying questions. And I say, well, do you write before work? Do you write after work? Do you write on your lunch break? Do you write on the weekend? And if the answer is no, the job isn't the problem.
Yeah.
Like, so let's work on that in small ways. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's worked. This path has worked for me, but yeah, I guarantee at 22, if you were like, hey, I would have gone wherever Liz lands, she's going to figure it out. Let's do it. Go for it. Where like if a 44-year-old says to me, hey, I want to blow up my life because I'm bored of my job and I've got 3 kids and we're about to pay for colleges, I'd be like, woo, let's figure this out. Let's workshop this.
Totally. I really appreciate that nuance because here's something that I don't love that I've noticed happens is when people give advice from their current season without acknowledging that seasons are different and that what people need to hear in different seasons are different. And so in my own like little niche, I feel like there's this thing happening. It feels more for women that there's women that are like my age. And I kind of resonate with this, where there's this sense of like, I have a sense of balance in my life and in my work and with my family that I feel really good about. That it's like, I get to do work that I love. And I feel really good about the amount of time that I get to protect, to be a mom and to have community. And so I feel like there's this whole crop of, again, maybe it's just that I'm listening to more women that are entering into this season where it's like we get to say no to things. Like we get to slow down. We get to prioritize, these non-vocational, hustle, ambitious things. Here's my problem is now I feel like they're looking back and they're like kind of like proclaiming this gospel of like, it feels like a little like anti-hustle, anti-ambition, choose the slow, meaningful life, which is fine. But here's where I get upset. I'm like, you don't get to make that choice if you didn't spend the first 15 years of your life hauling ass and hustling. And so if you're telling a 22-year-old, like, just be chill and like work-life balance and don't sacrifice too much and don't stress yourself out, I'm like, she will never get to the place where she gets to say, I'm so excellent at my craft. It's acknowledged enough. Like I can earn enough in a short amount of time doing something that I have honed in and become excellent at. That is actually what creates balance. And she's never going to get it if at 22, she's listening to the advice that you're now doling out at 42. And it bothers me.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I've been doing this thing where to 20-year-olds, I'm like, don't ever use the phrase work-life balance in your 20s. Like, don't say it. Don't say it. These are the building years. You have the most time and energy you'll ever have. Like, use it. And I always say, never let a lazy 48-year-old tell you, oh, work-life balance. And especially somebody
a successful 48-year-old.
They weren't doing that. At 22, they weren't like, I forest bathe. You mean walk? Yeah, that's the phrase we use for walking in the woods now. Forest bathing. Okay. So it's like I take a silent retreat, like you see people go, you need to take 3 days off every month. Like, and you're like, you take 36 days off? Like, not at 26 you weren't. Like, you had 8 vacation days at your corporate job. Like, stop it.
Totally.
So no, you and I are the same there. I think that's really disingenuous. And so like, the thing I say to people in their 20s is when they go, hey, should I do this or this? I go, do both. Do both. I think you're capable of both. I think do both. Like people in their 40s tell me they're burned out. And I usually go, I think you're bored. Like, because they'll say, I go, if you got 10 gears, they'll go, I'm at gear 8. And I'll go, you're at gear 3. Like you got so much more to give. You're overstimulated and under-challenged.
Yeah,
most people in their
good.
40s need bigger problems, not smaller problems. And so like I'm 49 and I had somebody the other day be like, why are you still going? Like, why are you still doing it? Why are you still? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I feel like I'm just getting started. And I was like, ask a bird why it flies, because it's a bird. if you think I'm stopping at 49, it's just getting good. Like, what do you, and so I'm trying to pour into younger generations, but you and I could probably do 10 hours on here's something being said online that I disagree with, or here's what this influencer said that I think is just flat out a lie. I don't think it's true,
Oh, so good. Okay, so you were doing the moonlighting kind of like reverse Superman thing. Then you went and you started working for Dave Ramsey, which from what I know, and correct me if this isn't true, feels almost like it was kind of this middle ground where it was like, okay, now you're more full-time, this like writer, personality, thought leader type, but you're not on your own. You're still kind of like in somebody else's house that's been built that you didn't build.
Yeah.
How did you know when it was time to transition out of the house? Because you were doing the thing within the house that you wanted to be doing. What did that process of discernment look like for you and for Jenny? And how old were your kids at that time?
So that was 12 years ago. So our oldest was 10 and our youngest was 8. And part of it is like, we kind of have a decision framework we think through where did I get wise counsel? Did I talk to my slow talking friends? Like we all have the friend that'll just tell us like, go for it. That's amazing. Like, did I get wise counsel? Did I pray about it? Did I work about it? Is this a fear-based decision or a faith-based decision? Are my emotions driving this, or is there some logic too? So there's kind of like this little checklist I kind of think through. But part of it was I wanted to see if I could do it. Like I flat out was like, hey, I'm telling all these people to risk and be brave. Like in my writing and my talking, I'm like, I want to go see if I can do this. And so it felt like a natural time to go, okay, let's see if we can figure this out. And there were costs to it. Like the reality was I had the greatest shot at massive attention. Like I just did. Like my wife, Jenny, I remember when we left, she was like, I think you're going to have a really hard time with this next book and the response. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, your previous book was released by a guy that has 8 million radio listeners and we have 0. And I think the numbers are going to be different. And so that was a reality of, so there were a lot of things on the other side of that where there's a lot of ego hit. There's a lot of like, oh man, like I'm starting over in a lot of ways.
Totally. Which is so much harder. I don't think that gets enough credit. Starting over when you've had a degree of success, the feeling of going backwards and risking that to move ahead, I think that is even more rare than people who try in the first place.
Yeah, for me, I'm starting over to a degree right now too, meaning like I've hired people to help me grow the business. So like about a year ago, I realized, okay, I've taken this to the farthest reaches of it. Like speaking, I figured out speaking, I figured out writing. Do I want to make it a business that does a bunch of things? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so I brought in a president of the company, and that's stretching me like crazy right now. And it's uncomfortable. But I always tell people like the only way you know you're outside of your comfort zone is if you're uncomfortable. Like that's the only sign. Yeah. And so right now I'm like, oh, that is okay. Like I'm trying this thing and I don't know how to do this thing. And so I think for me, in my career, I always get to a spot. There's a great book called ADHD 2.0 that says you have to figure out your right kind of difficult. Like, what's the right kind of difficult for you? And so in my career, I'm always going, okay, I figured this out. I'm like a Jack Russell Terrier. Like, I need a lot of like stimulation and jobs. Like, if I don't have a job and you leave me home for 8 hours, like I'm tearing the fridge down. Like, I like to be active. So even currently, I'm like, all right, I figured this part out. What's a new kind of difficult I can figure out? What's a new kind of difficult?
I think that self-knowledge is so important. You actually, a couple minutes ago, you referenced somebody who was talking about wanting to be like, I did wedding photography. I loved it. I had one good season. Now I'm going to be a wedding photographer 6 months and they hate it. I've had a recognition in the last couple of years that how much I love doing something once or twice or 3 times is not necessarily a reliable indicator of how much I would like doing it 50 times. I have such a bias for new, for challenges, for like beginnings that I've made a couple pretty big mistakes because I've confused my excitement for a new challenge for the challenge itself. And then I'm in it. And I'm like, I love this thing. I could do this every day of the week. And then I start doing it and I'm like, oh, it's not new anymore. And like 80% of your enthusiasm for this thing wasn't actually the thing. It was that it was the new thing.
So good.
And that's been kind of painful.
What have you learned on how to not have that happen?
I kind of have to have a test, like trial period. Before I burn the ships, I go, okay, do this thing 5 more times without stopping anything else that you're doing. And if by the end of the 5th time that you're doing it, you feel as passionate and as excited about it as you did at the end of the first time, that's a pretty good indicator. But I also think that there's something to be said. You had mentioned when I asked you, how did you know it was time for you to, leave Ramsey and kind of go out and build your own house? You answered, I wanted to see if I could. And I think that that's really powerful because I don't know if you would agree with me, but I had a pretty massive, what I would call, if you just looked at it on paper, a pretty big failure, a pretty big business failure that I hemmed and hawed over, like, do we do this? Do we not do this? Do we do this? Do we not do this? And the number one thing that made me go, you got to do it, is like, you don't want to wake up 3 years from now wondering if that could have been a thing. And so I did it, and it didn't work. And here is something that is underrated. The level of like peace in my bones that I have going, you tried it, you gave it your absolute best shot, and it didn't work. Like, it takes up no mental real estate for me. There is no shelf in my mind that is like coulda, woulda, shoulda, what if. And like, I don't think we give that enough credit. What it is like to have a mind that doesn't have all of these shelves that are lined with like maybe, coulda, wonder if you would have. Because when you try and fail to a large degree, you at least take it off the shelf. And you are like, I'm not replaying that. I'm not thinking about that. And I don't know. I feel like that's something that we don't talk enough about, is like, let's say you went out and you tried to build the house and it didn't work. I think we immediately are like, oh, that would have been like a sob story, or it clearly would have been a mistake that he thought he could. And I would go, even if it didn't work, which obviously it ended up working, I think there would have been an extraordinary gift for you in that, of going like, at least now you know.
There's so many times where Jenny and I, my wife, have talked exactly about that. I'm like, well, let's scratch that itch and do it thoroughly, and then we'll know.
Yeah.
Like, and it feels almost like everybody's parents said, it's not whether you win or lose, it's did you try your best, did you try your hardest? And you go, that's so cliche. And it's one of those to me that is actually true, because there's times where you go, I did the thing. Like, if you write a book, you're kind of inherently buying into that, because the reality is, you and I both know we can influence and control X amount of sales, like roughly this number of sales through our hustle, through our speeches, through our stuff. Like, I can get to this number. I can't get past this number except if I catch a wave. If there's like, if you said to Elizabeth Gilbert, what was the secret to Eat, Pray, Love being that? She'd go, I wish I knew, because I would have done it for Big Magic. I would have done it for every other book. And so you kind of, to do anything that's outside of the norm, there's this like, okay, I'm going to do this. And man, there might be a bruise on the other side, but man, there's going to, like, I got to figure it out. I got to try. And yeah, I hope that's something that my kids get. And I hope it's something that, other people that I encourage get. I hope it's something I continue to encourage myself to do. I think that's really valuable.
I like the idea. And I love the dynamic between you and Jenny of like just saying yes to scratching the itch. I think my husband has learned, and this is where just self-knowledge and knowledge of your partner is really important, is like the number one way for me to get to a place where I go, never mind, like maybe let's not do that idea, is if he gives me time and attention and space to explore it. And like, likelihood is by the end of the time, if I feel like someone is coming to me going like, wow, that's a really interesting idea, let's talk about it tonight, and start asking questions about it, I feel like there's like a 75% chance by the end of that, I will go, maybe not. I feel like the benefits and the cost and, When I come to him and I am just like, I have this idea, I've got this itch that I need to scratch, and I feel like the immediate response is like, no, or here's all the reasons that isn't going to work, or I feel like shut down, then I don't want to say festers, because that's such a negative word, but it's kind of like a good idea does need space, but also a bad idea needs space. I think so many people don't give their bad ideas enough space. So then they're like this super angsty, like I have all of these like unfulfilled potential and ideas in me that just never had the opportunity to come to fruition. I'm like, what your idea needed was actually a lot of space for you to hear and realize how dumb it was, or to try it and have it fail. Because I think, I was reading your most recent book, All It Takes Is a Goal, when you were talking about potential. And the fact that I think in the book, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that 4% of Americans would say they feel like they are living out their full potential. And the next question that I asked myself is like, I wonder how much of that's like true and how much of it's people that just never tried. So they kind of have this false narrative that like all of these things would have been possible for them. But if they actually would have tried it, they would have kind of bumped up against probably some harsh realities and then also some amazing realities, but that both of those things kind of coexist.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea because there's sometimes where I get to release somebody from the thought that they should write a book. Like they say, for 10 years, I've wanted to write a book. And sometimes I'll ask them enough questions that they realize they don't want to write a book. Very few people go, I've always known I'm supposed to record an album. Like, I just know it. I got an album in me. Like, less people do that.
Yeah.
Less people go, I've wanted to be a sculptor since I was 2, or whatever. But like writing is one of those things. And sometimes you go, well, maybe like, let's explore it. Or like, I'll give them a simple activity that takes 15 minutes. And it's like, if you don't want to do the 15, the 1,000 hours it takes to write the book, you're going to extra hate that. And so
that's so good.
And there is a sense of freedom of going, oh, like, yeah, I want to be like, I want to do beekeeping as a hobby, or I want to like, why do I feel this pressure that I have to do this one type of goal? So yeah, I think it's really fascinating to think through that. Like, how do you release some of those? How do you step into them? How do you give them time to work or not work? I'm like you though. I always say like the growing is in the going. I don't know if it's going to work until I'm going.
What's a time in your career that you have quit something? That you've gotten to a point where you were like, this is no longer, whether it's alignment or it's not working or it's not getting the momentum it needs or I'm no longer, what's a time that you were like, no, I tried it and now I'm deciding on purpose to stop doing something?
YouTube would be an example. So I tried YouTube for a year, like a solid year, and it had the 3 qualities that to me are always a time you should quit. You hate doing it. It is not rewarding financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get better. Because it's one thing if like you want to get better and you kind of don't like doing it because you're not good at it, but you want to get better. Or it's another thing if you're like, man, it really fills me up. Even though I'm not good, I'm going to get better. But for me, it was like, I hated doing it. It didn't make money, didn't fill me up, and I sucked at it, and I didn't have the desire to get better.
Yeah.
Now, so I tried that myself. The flip side of that is, with the business we're growing right now, the president of the company was like, hey, I think we should try a YouTube show where you interview people because I love encouraging people. Today, I work in downtown Franklin. That's where our office is. And there's a woman who gives parking tickets and she is so dedicated to her job. And I saw her and I said, hey, I want you to know. And she kind of like jumped back because she's used to getting yelled at.
Totally.
I was like, hey, I really appreciate what you do. Like, I know a lot of people probably fuss at you, but like, you really allow this city to be thriving, and you're part of that. So like, thanks for doing a great job. Like, my name is Jon, her name is Dawn. And like, that wasn't for like, no cameras were there. It wasn't. So I'll do that type of YouTube show. It'll be a better fit than when I tried it on my own. But there's still been a 3-year gap between those. But everybody in our space goes, Liz, what's your YouTube strategy? Why aren't you doing this, and this on this? And they always say it like it's easy. That's the other thing.
Totally.
It's people in our space in green rooms go, were you doing corporate training? You should do corporate. Why aren't you doing corporate training? They act like it's a switch you flip. And you go, they go, you're leaving money on the table. And then you feel like an idiot. And you're like, I didn't like, and it's and my wife always goes, next time tell them, why am I not an accountant? I should just be an accountant too. Like, why am I not an orthopedic surgeon? Why am I not? I could just be doing knee jobs all the time. Like, it's such a weird thing. And so I'm learning to get better at quitting things like that, where I go, man, it fails my 3 questions automatically.
Yeah, I really appreciate too the thought on just like curiosity and do I want to get better at it? I had a moment, this Instagram reel I was on somebody else's podcast that in my world, it went as viral as any, we've got like millions of views on this thing, which isn't totally normal for me. And I texted my business partner because she has people texting me and she's like, that people are seeing it, blah, 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 blah. And what I texted her was I just said, isn't the internet weird? Like, I don't think me running my mouth in this specific clip, frankly, I don't think it was any more profound. It was not, it's something I've said 100 times before. I have no idea. why this time the algorithm decided, it's like Viola Davis is like liking my reel, but I'm inside going, this isn't, I don't know why. The internet's weird. And I texted my business partner. I was like, I kind of wish that I had more innate curiosity about why this was popping off. And I don't. Like, I don't care to figure out the algorithm. I'm not going, oh my gosh, how do I reverse engineer this? Why did this pop off in the way that it did? I want to figure it out. And there was this part of me that was kind of sad because I was like, I think I would be quote unquote more successful if I just saw that and was just kind of like, I'm going to figure it out so I can do it over and over again. But the amount of peace that I had going, you know what? That's not going to be a core strategy for me. I'm not going to build my best, most successful life making reels on Instagram go viral. So instead of like beating myself up for not being curious about it, I'm going to be like, that was kind of nice and fun. Moving on to the things that I know work, that I know I'm intrinsically curious about, that I know are going to keep me awake at night going, how do I make it better? How do I fix it? This problem is really interesting to me. That is a fundamentally uninteresting question to me of like how the algorithm works. And I'm just going to release it and go, that's not a part of my story. And it feels really good to be able to be like, that's not my problem to figure out.
And you get to do that. Like, that's the other thing. Like, do you enjoy that? So like right now, my version of that would be if somebody said, Jon, AI speakers are crushing it. If you had a keynote on AI, we could book you, blah, blah, blah. I'd go, but I don't. Like, it's not my thing. I might be able to do it, but I feel like a phony. I don't think I deliver great content. If you said to me, you'd have to go spend 30 hours researching AI, I'd go, I'm going to hate every minute of one of those 30 hours. Like, so no, like that. No, I don't want to do that. I wonder if you agree with this. I think a lot of high performers don't know they get to enjoy the things they do. And it's often because they have a really negative self-talk where they kind of beat themselves up and think if they don't beat themselves up, they'll lose their edge. Like if I'm not hard on myself, if I'm not like constantly grinding on me, like I'll lose my edge. I feel like I run into high performers that have that kind of self-talk. There's been times where I would have had that moment and gone, I'm a failure because my other reels didn't go viral. Or the next one that doesn't, the very next one is a failure because it didn't go viral. Or everybody else can kind of see how easy this is to make it go viral. Why am I so late to the game? Do you feel like there's a lot of high performers you bump into that have negative kind of self-talk?
Yes, there's negative self-talk, but beyond that, typically what I find is that when I pull back one layer and then another layer and kind of ask those clarifying questions that you talked about with the person who's like, I've always wanted to write a book. I think it takes basically 3 follow-up questions typically to get to the heart of what someone's actually after. And with most high performers and high achievers that kind of have that, like, I have to constantly be beating myself up, what I have found is that they actually don't feel a deep sense of conviction or belief in what they have defined as success for them. Some of them literally just don't have an answer for like, what would be enough for you? Like you ask a high performer, high achiever, what's enough? What's the finish line for you? And either they don't have one, or they have something and they say it and 3 more follow-up questions. It's so easy to see. It's like, you don't actually believe that. Somebody told you that you would be loved, that you would be admired, that you would be respected. Somebody else did that and you saw the response that they got and you adopted that as your kind of North Star for success. It's not yours. And you don't actually even believe in it. I am hyper specific about success because the world gives us a couple metrics that are so easy to see. How many views did you get? How much money do you make? I mean, that's kind of it. It's like attention and money are the 2 things that are so quantifiable that just get handed to you. So if you don't have a matrix that is much more defined than that, you're going to kind of default to that. How much attention am I getting or how much money am I making? And I think the more specific you can get with, like, for me, Liz Forkin Bohannon, this is what success. I have a spreadsheet that I keep on my desktop. I fill it out at the end of every day. And I mean, it has like 17 columns in it. That is like everything from like my physical health, my mental health, how much time did I spend with my kids, how present was I, how much time did I spend with my friends, how much creative. What is the
metric?
I am literally just tracking it. But then I have goals around like, hey, for me, this is what a successful year looks like. My income is like maybe 9th on the list. Like my goal is like, hey, you have a bare minimum income that you need to make in order to facilitate the 9 other things that you say are more important to you. And it just helps me like rightly place how important things are. But if you don't do the work to actually go like, what is a good, beautiful, juicy, full, peaceful, ambitious, creative life look like for you? And it's different for each of us. The world's going to define it for you. And so my experience with the high achievers is like, it's less that they're like so laser focused on success and more actually they haven't given success and how they're defining it enough attention.
But are you like your spreadsheet, is it, when you say you're tracking it, is it a checkbox or is it mental health? Today I was an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I do colors. So I do green, red, yellow, and that just really helps me so I can like isolate like a month or a season and start to see like trends. And then
summer was red.
Yeah. Well, summers are never red, but you know, the winters here in Portland, Oregon are pretty red, to be honest. But the summers are off the hook. They're green. They're green definitely green. Yeah. So I just think it comes down to like, we each have to do the work to know like, and that takes experimentation, which is, I feel like,
have you written
coming back? I haven't. No.
It's not in a book?
It's not in a book. It's not in a book.
Do you want me to say the next sentence we're all thinking? Why not? Like,
oh, Jon, you know, this is not the first time that you've done this to me. We haven't hung out that much, but I have a memory of, we were at some event, I can't even remember what it was, and I told the story, and you were like, is that story in a book somewhere? I'm like, no, I haven't told that story in like 10 years. And you're like, you remember I can't even remember what the story was. Oh, yeah.
And we were sitting outside, and it was a story about you tried to pick up furniture that they weren't giving away. And it was, I was, as a speaker, I was like, oh my gosh, that is a gold mine. And I was like, are you telling that a lot? And you're like, not really. And I was like,
I don't think I told that story in 10 years. That was really from the archives.
I just need to follow you around for like a week, and I'll tell you like 10 books you're sitting on and like 7 keynotes. Which is a huge compliment to the way you look at the world and the way you think. And like, but yeah, the spreadsheet thing, gosh, that feels like, oh my gosh, that's really helpful.
I appreciate that. And that might have been your real give a mouse a cookie moment that you're going to go on to regret, because I'm going to text you after this podcast and be like, so when is a week that you could come out to Portland, Oregon and follow me around and help me figure this out? Oh, man. Well, Jon, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Thank you just for the way that you live life out loud. I feel like, you know, there's a whole deal on the internet right now about being a gatekeeper. You know, like, don't be a gatekeeper. I feel like you're the ultimate not gatekeeper. You're the ultimate, like, I figured out something and it serves me and I want to put it in a form that I think you'll be able to receive, and I want it to serve as many people as possible. I feel like that is kind of one of the things that you do in the world. And I know I have benefited so greatly just from your spirit of generosity and sharing. And I know so many of our listeners feel the same way. So thank you so much for being here today.
That's a really sweet way to say it. And I feel like I'm trying, you know, when people say, who do you write for? I write to the me I used to be. I'm desperate for the 22-year-old me to learn these things faster than it took. And he can't. So therefore, I give it to everybody else. Like, I can't go back and tell young me, like, hey, it's going to be worth it. Here's some things to do. Like, get a mentor faster than you want. Like, blah, blah. Like, so now I'm like, oh man, I'm desperate for people of all ages to go like, oh man, if I found a pearl in a field, I want you to dig up your own field too. Like, because they're probably there. And you doing that won't take anything away from mine. If anything, it's though like he who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. So I always tell people, like, if you're down, the fastest way to get up is to encourage somebody else. Like, if you feel discouraged, go encourage somebody else. And it feels counterintuitive, but man. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's a good way to say it.
So good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Liz.